Welcome to using UCCX Unified Intelligence Center. I'm Marty Griffin, a Cisco Contact Center instructor from Sunset Learning Institute. This video presents the topic of managing users, groups, and permissions for CUIC. This video is one of a multi-part series addressing using UCCX Unified Intelligence Center. Let's move on with managing CUIC, reporting users, groups, and permissions. Topics we'll address in this session are the security administrator, security overview, managing users, managing user groups, managing permissions, showing how the run as works, audit trail logging and reports, and some security considerations. Access to the functions in the Unified Intelligence Center reporting application is controlled by one or more users who have the user role of security administrator. The initial default security administrator is the user defined as the system application user during the installation. Users with the security administrator role can create and maintain users, assign user roles. The user roles are assigned to users to control access to drawers and what objects the user can create. The security administrator role can also assign user to user groups, create and maintain user groups, and assign permissions. Permissions are where we have user roles are associated with people. Permissions are associated with objects. Dashboards, reports, report definitions, data sources, value lists, and collections are indeed objects. And the security administrator can do a run as feature to verify other users' permissions. Unified Intelligence Center Security offers multi-layered and flexible functionality that allows the security administrator to create a flat or a tiered structure of access to Unified Intelligence Center functions based on the organization's needs. A user's access to Unified Intelligence Center functions is based on their login authentication, the license type under which the user's organization runs Unified Intelligence Center. For example, organizations that use a standard license cannot access the report definition functions. The user role, and that's a case where a user can have one, some, or all 7 user roles. User groups, in which a user is a member, and for an object the user can access. The object level permissions assigned by the person who created that object. The user list page opens in the security drawer. Let's take a look at this. And we see one item in here, and the one item is here because the user we have logged in as does not have security administrator user role assigned to her. But let's see what we can do with that. We open up the user list and we only see one user here, and that is the user that is logged in. We can do some modification under the name of Carmen Logue here. And in the general tab, general information tab here, we can make some modifications and make some stuff work here. Well, I see that this user does not have their first name or their last name in there, so I'll add that in. However, because I do not have security administrator user role, I cannot come down and add roles to this user. And neither can I assign groups to the user, and that's where we're at. This user can save the changes that they've made, and sure enough, the first and last name are now showing in the record. I have logged back in with a user who does have security administrator user role assigned to them, and by opening up the security, I see 3 items in here instead of just 2. And when I look at the user list, they can see all the existing users in the system. I can create users, modify or delete users, review or edit user information, and I can also use the Run As feature to work in CUIC as a user. If I select one of these and edit it, I see that I can now actually change the roles for that user because I have security administrator user roles in this user called Martin. Sure enough, I can save that. And we'll move up. Okay, the logged in user is Martin here, and Martin has security administrator rights and therefore can create a new user. Let's get at that. The username is important. If we read the documentation on that, it is the domain and the username. Our domain is uccx.edu, so UCCX and snandy is what we've just added there. The first name is Shantanu and the last name is Nandy. Alright, we look down here toward the bottom and we can in fact give this user some rights. Of course we want them to be able to log in, and we'll give them some system configuration rights, security administrator rights, and that's about all we're going to do for this fella. And sure enough, we get to the top and we can save that user, and now Shantanu will wind up on the user list, and that's exactly what we intended to accomplish. And now let's visit a little bit about user groups. User groups are found under the security drawer, and to see it we'll open up user groups and check out the user groups that we currently have installed. In CUIC normally there are two user groups that are created by default. The all users group is supplied by CUIC, and all users to this group live in this group by default. The administrators group consists of administrators. But in CCX, there are three more groups that are created. One for agents, one for reporting users, and one for supervisors. User groups are constructs that allow security administrators to partition CUIC functionality. We can assign permissions and features to a user group and then assign users to the group as members to inherit those permissions. It avoids repetitious administration for each and every user. This expedites user provisioning when multiple users require the same access to dashboards and reports, or when users require distinct permissions and features based on regional or organizational requirements. Now let's create a user group. User Martin is going to create a user group, and we'll show you some tricks here a little bit later on with permissions. First, we'll locate security and user groups and punch up create here. Here we're given an opportunity to create a group name. We'll create one called Omaha. This is a regional group, and we'll paste in the reporting users at the Omaha Contact Center. At the Group tab, we'll select all the available groups to be members of this group, and after we do that, then we will select the all users group to be our default user group. And sliding on over to group members, we are looking at all the available users. Well, let's make them all available except for Mike and student 1. Whoops. And we'll make all those people user members. We'll save this. And again, now we have the user group called Omaha. We can go in and edit that group and look at the group members. And we could have put the users in individually, which is what we did, or we could have used the available groups and pushed the groups over one at a time to get the members in there. So we could have get a group within a group. And offline, we created another group called the Ipswich group. This is in Ipswich, South Dakota, if you've ever been there. And yes, indeed, we can open that up with the edit button and see that these are the agents at the Ipswich, South Dakota call center. We have no groups involved here. We just have some group members for this group. Mike and Student 01 and Shantantu, there is all part of the group. And we've got 2 groups now. That's pretty cool. Let's examine permission. User roles are associated with people and permissions are associated with objects. Unified Intelligence Center objects are dashboards, reports, report definitions, data sources, categories, value list, and collections. We're given permission to execute, and when the user has execute permissions for an object, that user can perform some actions that depend on the object. For example, with execute permission, a user can run, print, and refresh a report, open and refresh a dashboard, and run a dashboard slideshow and see a value list query. Execute permission includes the read permission. Run write permission for an object, that user can alter, rename, or delete the object. So that's in addition to what you can do for execute. For example, with write permission, you save as, import, export reports, you can edit a data source, and you can delete a custom value list. Write permission also includes execute and read permission. A user receives permission for an object from different sources. Permission can be inherited from the all users group, from the default group, or the permission assigned by the security administrator. Among all those permissions, the highest level permission is used when the user accesses the object. We'll use the Manage User Permissions page to set extra permissions to groups or to individual users. There's a couple of tabs there. One's Assign Group Permission and the other's Assigned User Permissions. Let's take a look. Let's work with user permissions in the Assign Group Permissions area. And because permissions are associated with objects, let's see what objects we've got going for us here. We have data sources, we have report definitions, reports, dashboards, and value list. Let's pick reports here. That seems to be the simplest one we can do. And let's set some permissions for this voice CSQ summary dash. All users currently right now have execute and write capabilities for that. Let's go see who are all users. By punching up all users here, I see all the users who are included in the all users group. We would expect that. So currently the permissions are executable and write permissions for the all users group and for the report CSQ voice summary dash. The folks in the all users group have the capability now to actually delete this report voice CSQ summary dash. We don't want that. So we'll set the permissions here and we'll remove the write permission, and now the all users group do not have write permission and they do not have the ability to remove that voice CSQ summary dash report. So under all the work we did for group permissions, we note that for all users, write permission has been removed. One of the members of all users is Mike Keitzer. We'd like to point that out. Let's move to the assigned user permissions. Now we use this in the cases where we have given a group of users certain execute or write permissions. However, in this case, Mike's a good guy, and what we would like to do is give him write permission for this, even though he's in the all users category or all users group. So we'll select Mike Keitzer here, and we'll set his permissions to be write, and you see the execute is grayed out. Now that was given to us courtesy of the all users group. We'll collect OK, and now Mike Keitzer has write permission in the assign user permissions tab. He can go in and remove that report if he wishes, or do whatever he wants to the voice CSQ summary dash report. This takes us to a kind of a handy little feature called Run As. Here we have logged in as CUIC Administrator, and I'm going to go look under Security at my user list for a minute, and we're going to check out some things to see if it works quite right. You notice here in the user list I see all the users, and that's what you would expect of somebody with the administrative rights, the security administrator rights, and we should be able to see all of the users. However, what I would like to do is pick a Carmen here, and notice that she does not have security administrator rights, and I'd like to run as her, and we'll kind of get a new web page here, and in the security thing we kind of expect to see that drop down to one item. So up here it says CUIC Administrator, I'm signed on as, but I'm running as Carmen Logue here. And if I punch up security over here, I only see one item on the user list. That's my rights. As a user, I can see the users, and I will only see one user here, and that's Carmen. So kind of cool. If I wanted to stop that run as, I can click on that, and we'll go back to being an administrator, at which point in the security I will see all the users plus the user groups and user permission capabilities with that. So let's take a look at something kind of interesting. Under available reports, we have found an area called the Intelligence Center Administration Audit Trail. Let's punch that up. And what we like to do is see what administrative moves individuals with administrative rights have done within the last, let's just say month. I also have the capability to say, well, only within a certain time period. So maybe a user is only working in the afternoons, and we can get that. Or we can say only show results on certain days of the week. So I have a issue that happened on Friday, and I want to see within a certain specified period of time who was doing any kind of administrative work. So I know that a guy named Martin here is a guy that's been doing a lot of administrative work, and if I pull back up here and go ahead and run that report, I will get an audit report telling every move administratively that Martin has done on the system. There we go. So the operations, he's logged in, logged out, done some updates, and when he does a delete, or if he does an update, the entity name, he's run a report here called Voice CSQ Summary. And let's pull down here a little bit more for some more exciting stuff here we've been doing here lately. And here he's created a group here called Omaha. He created another group called Ipswich. We just did that earlier in this presentation. And it's a kind of a handy little tool. It tells you what time, who the user was, operation they did, and the status, whether it was a success or not. Let's see if this guy did anything that was a failure. Not the case. Anyhow, pretty cool report. Well, that about wraps it up for managing users, groups, and permissions. in the discussion of CUIC for Contact Center Express. Hopefully this made your job a little easier when you go back to work, and we thank you for listening.